All right, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Lauren's not going to be joining us this week because she had surgery a couple of weeks ago, and today she is actually running a fever, a rather high fever. And she's going to be on her way, hopefully, to the urgent care center, unless she's a little bit on the stubborn side. But in either case, she won't be joining tonight, so it'll just be me. Hopefully, you guys know who I am. My name is Bill Moore. I am the author of Food Truck 101. Get Food Truck 101 is from beginner to winner, and we're discussing tonight Food Truck 201, which is the fifth book I've written about the mobile food industry, and this one is subtitled Get Off the Truck. What our goal is with this particular book is to help people set up their business in such a manner that they're not constantly working and prepping and doing all that kind of stuff. They're actually doing the marketing and building their food truck into a food business. So the question I've got for you tonight pertains to the 8 pages we're going to be going over this evening. And it's 8 pages because they are very heavy, as Lauren likes to say, in content. The question I have is, what happens when a company makes a bad policy or rule? So what I want you to think about is, at some point in your past, I'm sure you have gone someplace and asked a business to do something that the person you're talking to says, well, I can't really do that. That's not our policy, or that goes against our policy. No one likes hearing that, because now it makes you question the business that you have chosen to actually go spend some money at. Sometimes the policies make no sense to the outsider. So what I'd like you to get out of this is understand that any policies, any rules that you make that pertain to your staff and have an impact on your guests, you want to think about their perception. Does it make sense for us to say this? And then you don't want your staff to ever say, well, it's our policy, we don't do this. What you want your staff to do is explain the why. And in order for them to be able to explain the why, you have to have taught them the reason we don't do this is because. And then hopefully they understand what is going on. Okay, so we're going to be talking about core values. Core values is one of those big fancy terms that a lot of leadership books talk about. A lot of businesses have them. And then it stops in the corporate office, or it stops at the president's or CEO's office. We have core values, but we don't ever really practice them. In order for your business to be really super successful, those values have to be on display every single second that you're open. Building your business's culture, and that's what you're doing. And the culture is the personality of the food truck, the personality of your business. It starts by having one value at a time and then building upon that one value. Values determine how decisions are made and what the priorities are within the business. In the book, I cite an example of what the priorities are for one of our businesses, and it helps us to make good financial, responsible decisions. So the values kind of lay the guidelines for how all your decisions are going to be made. Values must be supported through standards, policies, procedures, and systems. We've talked about that a couple of different times. The standards, policies, procedures, and systems are something you're going to be writing and should be writing as soon as you get your food truck dream started. The standards are how you're going to deliver the food and all the different weights and measurements and all those kind of mechanical things. The policies deal with the people. Procedures deal with actions you're going to be doing as far as prep work and how things are assembled. And then the systems, how you're going to double check that the standards, policies, and procedures have been accomplished. And then the values have to dovetail with all of that. The values become super important in this process because they help to build what your business culture is. And that's what we're talking about, the business culture. And then those values have to be reflected in all the decisions, both big and small, every single day that you're in operation. When you start to have disgruntled employees is when the business culture starts to fragment and doesn't follow its own values. If you say that guest service is our top value and we are going to be friendly, and then you as the owner are not friendly towards a guest, or worse, not friendly towards your employees, there's a difference in being a boss and being a boss that's cordial. You don't have to be friends with them and go out and party and have a good time. What I'm talking about is you being cordial and treating them like human beings. The moment that you stop doing that, and one of your core values is that we will be friendly, now the employees, they're confused. They don't care. And if you don't care about the values that you have written, that you have established, now they don't care about the standards, policies, and procedures, because you start to break down that integrity. So the values have to be reflected in everything that you do pertaining to your business. So let's talk about core values in words. I end the chapter on core values with a whole bunch of words, and there are way more words than I put in that book. And what you want to do is go through those and look at the ones that appeal to you. You want to choose the words, again, that appeal the most to you and define them in a way that would have meaning to you and your business. For me, in our food truck group, and really in every business that we run, moral, legal, ethical, those are the things that guide us. So moral. If it doesn't have a law that says you got to do it, sometimes you got to take the moral high ground and do what's right morally. And of course, if there's laws and rules and regulations, you got to follow those, because that makes you legal. And then you got to be ethical. Sometimes you can be moral and legal and not really be ethical, because ethical pertains to fairness. Ethical pertains basically to how you want to be treated and how you're going to treat other people the exact same manner. So we look to make sure that those three things are reflected in everything that we do. So when we write our mission statement, we talk about moral, legal, and ethical. And then we talk about the things that are important to a food truck business or a food business in general. And those four pillars are quality, service, cleanliness, and community. All of those things go together to create the values of our business. They go to create the culture in the restaurant and in the food truck. If we don't have those things in place so that employees, when they join, we can talk about moral, legal, ethical, and then we're all about quality, service, cleanliness, and atmosphere, and we define those words so that those new employees know what's going to be going on within the business, then we're on to a winning strategy. Because then once the employees know and understand, all we have to do is coach them and then reinforce those values. When they break a value, he's got to remind them, hey, that's not how we operate around here. That's not what we do. And that's just general coaching. What you got to remember is a lot of people, when they hire an employee and they train an employee, they expect that training to stick. No matter how easy the job is or how complicated it is, they expect the employee for the remainder of their life and in that particular job to do the training. But that's not how it works. Because we all know that people are going to make those little mistakes. They're going to take those little shortcuts. And that's what the business owner and the supervisors above the staff want to catch, and then coach them on the right way to do things. We have these athletes that make millions upon millions of dollars. And those athletes have coaches to help them get better at what they're being paid millions and millions of dollars to do. So our employees deserve the exact same amount of attention. We want to coach them to get better than they were yesterday. And when they make mistakes, we teach them, we coach them how to not make the same mistakes again. All that has to be reflected in your core values. And then you got to stick to them. You have to lead by those values. You don't ever want to break one of those values, because if you do, somebody's probably going to notice. And then when you've broken it, you've given them permission to break other things as well. That's definitely not something we want to do. Communication. In this particular chapter, it's all about how to communicate not only with your employees, but your guests as well, and just other business folks in general. So you want to make sure that any communication that's official is intentional and measured. You're thinking about what you're going to say before you say it. You want to make sure that you're coming across in the right manner pertaining to your business, especially on things that are going to be written that other people are going to read, and especially when you go and maybe do a live interview. You want to take that time to make sure you're thinking your answer through before you start running your mouth. Performance management, and this is another bit of communication. You want to celebrate successes. Let people know when they've done something right. Let them know when they've done something that is impressive. Let them know when they've shown an improvement. If you have an employee that's not performing well, and then suddenly they get something right, celebrate that success. They don't have to be the best, but they have to be working on improving every day. And then, like I was talking earlier, you got to coach the shortcomings when they're not achieving what you want them to achieve. So you have a goal for your cashier. I'd like you to sell 10 desserts today through lunch, through suggestive selling, and they don't achieve that goal. Then you're going to coach them on how they could have done it a little bit better. Someone's not fast enough at getting a product made. You can coach them on what they can do to assemble a sandwich faster and still be neat, or to wrap the sandwich and still have it look the way you want it to look. There are ways that you can help them to get better, but you have to manage their performance and, again, celebrate when they do something right, but coach them when they aren't. You want to always be team building, always. You want to review any goals that you have, and there should be goals being set every single shift. Okay, guys, today we are going to do, and then list what the goals are. Am I going to sell 10 desserts? Are we going to sell 30 sandwiches? Are we going to have all of our ticket times be under 8 minutes? You could even share sales goals if you wanted. Okay, today at lunch, we're going to do $500. Today at lunch, we're going to do 1,000. You want to share the goals and give them something to work towards, and then review those throughout the day to let them know where they stand. Don't let it be a surprise at the end of the day when you go, well, we didn't even make the service times. You need to be coaching those. And then you want to explain. This is, again, being intentional and measured. Explain why those goals are important to the business, important to the staff, important to the guest. Obviously, a sales goal is important to the business, so you can pay them. If we don't hit $1,000 today, it's going to help me to pay you. We have 8-minute service times. Our guests are going to love it. So let's make sure we get them loving the food and then loving our service. If you sell 10 desserts today, that helps increase our average check, which helps me, again, to pay all the bills and to pay you. When people understand the why behind a goal, they're more likely to achieve it. And then there's an opportunity to celebrate successes again. Everything that you do has to be based on trust and your integrity. You are the one setting the example. Integrity means that you are looking at the whole volume of your business culture and the values, and you're doing all of them. You're the one setting the example. If you're hitting all of the goals, all the stated values, rather, that you have told your team when you hired them, this is what we're going to be all about in our food truck, then you're going to start to earn the trust of your team because you're the one that's setting the example and you don't deviate from that example. Perfect example. You guys know that I have a 0 tolerance policy for profanity on the group because you're in a text setting. You're choosing to write your words. It's not like it slips out because you're angry. And I'm not one of those people that subscribe to the very failed notion that profanity indicates intelligence, because it does not. I'm also not one of those people that believe that profanity is something that should be a part of the daily routine. So if you have a policy of no profanity on your truck, especially in the interactions with your guests, because after all, who wants to be cussed at by a cashier? But you don't set the example and you allow those words to slip out when you're talking to your staff, you've given them permission to let it slip out when they're talking to your guest. Those kind of examples impact your integrity. If you let something slip, the integrity is not there. The whole person has fractured a little bit. So overall, the communication should be transparent. You take responsibility for the shift and the business results. You share the credit and you never place the blame. So what I'm talking about here, let's say you tell your staff we're going to do $1,000 today at lunch. We need to sell 10 desserts and we need to have our ticket times at 8 minutes or less. At the end of the shift, you got to go over those results and let people know exactly where they stand, what could have been done better. And then if there's nothing that could have been improved on, then you got to really celebrate that. If you get a great review, that review is on the food truck and the people working it. And even if you're the person that's on the grill or the person at the cash register, you share the credit. Look what we did, guys. This person loved what we do. If you get a bad review, you're going to look at the issues that can be corrected and you're going to correct them, but you're not going to place blame. Well, it's all your fault we got this because you weren't fast enough. Those kind of things don't build a team. And once you start placing blame, then you're giving your team permission to place blame as well. This is where we get into the thing we talked about last week, where you have day shift and night shift. When you start placing blame, then you're telling one shift that you can place blame on the other one because it's acceptable. And those are things we definitely do not want to do. We don't want to fragment the team. We're all there for one goal. That goal is to do awesome in quality service cleanliness. Make sure that the guests want to come back and build our business. All right, coaching. And I've talked about this many times, but Steve Jobs, founder and CEO of Apple, he had a business coach when he was CEO. So you have a guy at the pinnacle of his career. He's created a multi-billion-dollar company. It's soon going to probably go over $1 trillion. And he had somebody coaching him. Chairman and CEO of Salesforce.com, CEO of Pepsi, CEO of Target, CEO of Google, Oprah Winfrey. All those people had coaches when they were at the top of their game. I cannot stress enough, you got to have a coach. You got to have a mentor. You got to have somebody that you can bounce ideas off of. You got to have somebody that's going to hold you accountable. That's going to say, look, you said you were going to raise your sales 10%. What's going on? Why are you not hitting it? What can we do to help you achieve that goal? This is what I do all day long. I talk to people about their business and what they're doing, what they're achieving, and what they're not achieving. And it's just basically a question and answer session. And then when they get stuck on something, if they can't think of an answer, then I help them. That's what coaching's about. You want the person to figure out their own answers. And if they can't, then you give them that gentle guidance in the right direction. One of the biggest issues that all the people that I talk to is sales. Sales are not where they want them to be. We're not as busy as I thought we'd be. And then I go through the steps. Okay, so tell me about your social media. Well, I really don't post as often as I should. Okay, there's a problem. Tell me about what you've done locally in your community. Well, I really haven't done anything. You can't wait on people to come knock on your door and say, hey, I'd like you to come set up somewhere. You have to be the one going out and doing the knocking. You have to be the one going out in inviting people to your trailer. I tell you guys about samples. When you're slow and there's no one around, send somebody out with some food, some samples. There's got to be people around. The last truck that I talked to, they were set up in front of a brewery. It was slow, so they sent in somebody with some samples, just little bite-sized bits of their food. And they said without exception, every person they gave a sample to came and bought food. Now that's unusual. You don't usually have 100% participation, but had they not done that, they'd have had no sales or very, very few sales. And the neat thing about it was they actually got comments later and in the review. Somebody let them a review on, they thought how awesome it was that they came and brought samples to people to let them try the food. Sampling works, coaching works, having somebody to bounce ideas off of, it all works. But if you're not willing to take that step, you're probably not going to be willing to do the social media. You're probably not going to be willing to actually walk around and talk to business owners and say, hey, I've got a food truck and it's going to be here next week. Can I put this poster in your break room? You're not going to talk to the apartment complex managers. You're not going to talk to the homeowners association people. If you're not willing to do the little things, you're not going to find the big things coming to you very frequently. We believe that it's really important to come up with core values that you can commit to. And by commit, we mean that you're willing to hire and fire based on them. If you're willing to do that, then you're well on your way to building a company culture that is in line with the brand you want to build. That's from the CEO of Zappos. It's a very important step. I know you just got a food truck. You might only just have you and your spouse working it. Build that culture right now. How are you guys going to talk to each other when you're on the food truck? I can guarantee you, in most cases, husband and wife working together, two friends working together, anybody with a relationship working with somebody else, they're going to act how they act away from business. There might be the little prodding and good-natured ribbing, but it doesn't always sound that way to somebody outside listening. You have to have that professionalism. You have to have that talk back and forth is only about the business. I need you to drop 3 hamburgers. I need you to drop a basket of fries. We had 2 Phillies on order, that kind of thing. It shouldn't be talking about, well, you know what the kids did last night? They didn't pick up the toys before they went to bed, and I had to go in and pick them up afterward, and I'm so tired. People don't want to hear that crap. Even if you're getting the food out, they don't want to hear that. Because now the culture of your business, according to them, is 2 people fighting about their kids. No one wants to be around that. They want to step up and have you wait on them professionally. They want to feel like you want their business. They don't want to know who was dating who and who was going out, and they don't want to hear all the gossip that people talk about on their food truck. You're chasing people away without even realizing it.